On tax administration, Mr. Speaker, millions of honest taxpayers in our country continue to sustain our growth and development agenda. It is, as I remind you, often their money that we spend and talk about today. To them, we owe a debt of gratitude, and more importantly, a commitment to spend that money wisely, efficiently, and effectively. Let us give a loud and joint thank you to all tax-compliant citizens in South Africa. Anybody who's feeling guilty about not paying their fair share can see Commissioner Makashula later on. We also owe it to our taxpayers to ensure they are not carrying the burden of those who benefit from our country's infrastructure and resources without paying their fair share of costs. Around the world, taxpayers and their governments are challenging large multinational companies that pay little or no tax in the countries in which they operate and profit from. Meeting in Moscow earlier this month, finance ministers and central bank governors of the G20 countries were united in supporting an overhaul of international company tax rules to address this issue. The South African Revenue Service is currently engaging with companies that have their base operations in South Africa, means they operate here, they make their money here, they make their profits here, but appear to have shifted a large proportion of their profits to low-tax jurisdictions where only a few people are employed and very little tax is paid in South Africa. This is unacceptable. SARS is also pursuing schemes identified under the revised General Anti-Avoidance Rules following several years of painstaking work tracing transactions through multiple jurisdictions and entities. These benefits typically accrue to advisors and pre-existing shareholders rather than new shareholders who were introduced as the ostensible beneficiaries of these transactions. So these are all schemes that require very careful attention. Honourable members will remember a temporary voluntary disclosure program was implemented under legislation enacted in 2010, which allowed taxpayers in default to regularize their tax affairs. More than 18,000 taxpayers have made use of this program, and tax of more than 3 billion rands has so far been collected as a result of this program. Minister Sakwala had a special request for me this morning that I shouldn't praise any of these people because they were dodging tax. From 1 October 2012, a permanent voluntary disclosure program became effective as part of the Tax Administration Act. Some 700 taxpayers have already come forward. Tax of more than 200 million rands will be collected before the end of March 2013. SARS is also targeting other areas of non-compliance, including recipients of government expenditure who are not up to date with their taxes. Put it more simply, people get tenders and contracts from the state, but they don't pay tax to the state. Treasury and interfacing with government department payment schemes, SARS has identified companies who have received payments but have not declared their full income tax. They are being audited and others will follow. So we do have sufficiently developed systems, honourable members, which allows us to know who received how much from the state. We are now sending auditors to all of them, or as many of them as possible, and saying, show us that you've paid your fair share of tax. This intervention will be further underpinned by the reform of the tax clearance certificate process, which I announced in October. In the near future, SARS will introduce a single registration process in which companies are able to register once in a simple manner for all tax types and customs activities. On this, we can perhaps consider adding the suggestion by Amanda Hayes, who runs a small business in Cape Town. She proposes that a single database of suppliers to government be created out of all the companies that apply to SARS for tax clearance certificates. In addition to reducing the burden on small businesses, Amanda says this database will help reduce corruption because of the tighter national oversight over companies who are registered on this database. Thank you for your suggestion.